what's considered jazz now is popular jazz anyway. Is not wouldn't even be considered jazz, say 20, 30 years ago. What they call smooth jazz, basically, is the more popular form, and that's more accepted. That's pretty much the moneymaker now. Yeah, your traditional jazz is pretty much dying, or I should say, the older audience is dying off.
Well, sort of like jazz when it came out, it also influenced certain classical music composers, like Stravinsky and Debussy and Gershwin.
Right.
But it was like a dance music, and again, being sort of part of the counterculture, it was from the people.
Right.
Like the people made it.
Like you say, it originally was dance music, and as time changed, the music became more cerebral. I think that kind of lost some of the audience too. It was too complex for people to just sit and enjoy, or dance for that matter.
So what would you say is like the biggest difference between like jazz and blues?
When I think of jazz, I think of it more like a language. It's a way of speaking. Like when people use the word like blues to describe a type of music, it's not as complex in structure as jazz, like I said. For instance, you'd use a triad or a chord that consists of three notes. The root, the third, and the fifth, if you want to think of it in terms of structure, stacking, how it stacks on top of each other. And then you have major or minor, which also evokes a certain mood. When you play jazz, you would use like your more extended chords, like you have the root, third, and fifth, and then you could have like the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, the 13th, and it just keeps stacking. A simple chord now becomes a big complex.
Yeah.
You know, it's like stretching a word into a paragraph.
Well, it's sort of like painters like Pablo Picasso took like the influence of jazz as sort of their inspiration for the movement.
Right.
So they didn't just draw the form or the silhouette.
No.
It's like they broke it all into pieces,
It
and they
extra.
played variations of it
Exactly.
all around to make an experience, really.
Yeah, but variation is one thing. When you extend it, you all of a sudden you've opened it up. You've exposed it in a different way.
Jazz is almost like a process then, as opposed to...
Yeah, it's a process in terms of there are certain tools that are there. You know, it's like you said, it's like a painter. You have basic colors, but what do you do with those colors? What happens when you start combining the basic colors to create other colors? That's how I think of jazz. You know, the music becomes as much your piece as the composer's, because it's your interpretation. It's like a group painting. Let's put it that way. If a combo is playing, so you never quite know how it's gonna end up.
Yeah, so it's a different painting every time.
It's a different painting every time. Right.
Now listen, honey, while I say, how can you tell me you're going away? Don't say we must part. Don't break my aching heart. You know I loved you for many years. Loved you night and day. How can you leave me? Can't you see my tears? So listen while I say, after you've gone and left me crying, after denying. You'll feel blue, you'll feel sad. You'll miss the best pal you ever had. There'll come a time, don't forget it. There'll come a time you'll regret it. Someday when you feel lonely, your heart will break like mine, and you'll want me only after you've gone, after you've gone, after you've gone away.
Cartoons, movies, as like popular forms of entertainment. Magazines,
Magazines. Right.
started. So you had mass advertising.
Mass advertisement.
Yeah, and
Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah, and ready-made clothes, because before you used to
That's
have to
right.
make your own.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, factories.
With radios being in the home, music came to you. So youth had the chance to have their own music, have their
Yeah.
own kind of like, this is just for us. And the whole like people moving to the cities to find work.
And work, right.
And like automobiles allowed young people their first chance to like be alone together.
Ah.
So as far as like kids breaking the rules,
The rules are getting away.
rebelling, yeah. So you had a new style of clothes for women, which was comfortable, no corsets. You know, you had Coco Chanel.
The age of design.
Yeah, the idea of what is feminine.
Right.
You know, whereas before feminine was always like roped in, super curvy, and women cut their hair short. They, you know, what became known as the bob.
The bob.
Yeah, because before a woman's beauty was defined by the length of her hair. You know, she just grew it and grew it and grew it. And this was like an act of rebellion, similar to like women burning their bras in the 60s, as women cutting their hair off. Yeah. And then you had the invention of electronic recording in making vinyl records.
Right. Exactly.
So, and this is where the music industry really sort of solidified. You could distribute music in this new form, and then you had the idea of musical genres. They had like white people's music and they had black
Right.
people's music.
Exactly.
You know, and that was the two sort of forms of real popular music. So in 1927, you have the first movie with sound, The Jazz Singer.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Jazz Singer was the first movies, the first talkie, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ever been in the dark, Neil? Well, with me it's all right. I'll kiss you and hug you, you'll see if I don't. Now, Mama, stop now. You're getting kittenish.
And then you have the stock market crash, much, and the Great Depression, which we can all
things go
pretty
in
much
cycles.
relate to. Yeah. So like that's the whole context for, you know, the early blues and early jazz
Right.
sort of coming out of this. And like the jazz clubs were sort of the meeting places for artists and for writers.
Yeah, that's where all the action, as they say, was, and that's where all the artists met. All the different genres would converge.
James Joyce, Igor Stravinsky, Pablo Picasso, Marcel Proust, and Sergei Diaghilev all met for dinner.
Huh.
And this was sort of like the cities were drawing people
Right.
in, drawing in all the greatest minds for.
You know, France was a great center for art in every form.
You had like Josephine Baker,
Josephine Baker,
you know,
right.
and like that real defiance. What is sexuality and what is music? The joy and expression of like, you know, the human experience
Right.
in the face of like a time which was, you know, politically going really conservative and prohibition and all these sort of moral reforms. So you had this sort of push-pull.
Well, yeah, the subculture,
Yeah,
as they call
yeah.
it.
But it was sort of similar to like the 60s and the hippies and all that like breaking out, but that was allowed by the technology.
Right.
You know, because you had the car and you had the radio. Like if you didn't have those things, I don't know, do you think it would have taken off?
Maybe in a different sense. I don't think anything is static. I think everything changes with time. But as technology changes, that determines how we affect it. This is just an evolution. You know, everything evolves, and so is music. The art form really. Historically, we don't really lose anything. It just becomes more enriched.
Gee, but it's hard to love someone when that someone don't love you. I'm so disgusted, heartbroken too. I've got those downhearted blues. Once I was crazy about a man. He mistreated me all the time. Next man I get has got to promise he'll be mine, oh mine. Trouble, trouble, I've had it all my days. Now trouble, trouble, I've had it all my days. Now it seems that trouble gonna follow me to the grave. I ain't never loved but 3 men in my life. I ain't never loved but 3 men in my life. My father, my brother, and the man that wrecked my life. It may be a week or a month or 2. Now it may be a week, it may be a month or 2. But that day you quit me, honey, it's coming home to you. I've got the world in a jar, the stoppers in my hand. Now I've got the world in a jar, the stoppers in my hand.